Hello again everyone, coming back with another Pathfinder video, carrying out part 2 of the character sheet. I apologize before for the microphone volume being low. I need a new headset, and I know that there's no camera. I'm currently using PS4 to record my videos. But without further ado, let's get right back in. Last time I ended with weapons and general equipment. Today I'm going to start off with the skills that are on your character sheet. Should be on the front page. So alright. So we'll start off with what they do. Skills are going to be, some of them are self-explanatory, such as acrobatics, bluff, crafting, etc. But how do they make sense? Alright, so you notice that on the left side of the skills there's going to be a little box. Here every class is going to have class skills. You're going to check off the box for the appropriate class skills for that class, such as rogues will have almost every skill, while fighters will mostly have things like climb, swim, acrobatics, very limited choices. And now, just because a skill is not a class skill doesn't mean you can't take it. It's just that class skills will give you a +3 as soon as you put a skill point into them. This is kind of like saying your class, these are things that your class would have to do, so it's going to have a slight advantage over other classes that might not, such as a fighter isn't going to have use magic device. That's going to be a foreign thing to them. Now, they can train in it, they can put skill points, but they'll never be as good as, say, a sorcerer or a occultist if we're looking at expanded character classes. So, we'll just briefly go through this. As you see, you have a total bonus, ability modifier, ranks, and miscellaneous bonus. The total bonus, everything added together, obviously. Ability mod, they tell you which abilities going down the list that you put the modifier in for. Ranks, this is where it comes into class again, such as a fighter gets 2+ their int modifier ranks per level. So that means at level 1, you only have, if you have 10 int, you only have 2 ranks to drop in here. Whereas, let's say you're a rogue, you have 8+ your int, and let's say you have 12 int, you get to choose 9. Now the rule of this is you can't go above your total character level in ranks. So if you're level 1, you can't put 2 ranks into one skill. You can only put 1. And now the miscellaneous bonus, as I said before, if it's a favorite class, you get a +3 there. So let's say you have a 3 dex modifier, you put in 1 rank, get the other +3. Your acrobatics will be a 7 at level 1. Now some races, and even some classes, will gain a bonus to different skills. Elves get a +2 to perception right off the bat, whereas druids and rangers get a bonus to survival equal to half your class level. But all this will go there. There's some feats that will affect it as well. But overall, for the class skills, I highly recommend looking into the expanded resources to really know what each skill actually pertains to, because there's a lot of hidden bonuses tied to them, such as acrobatics. If you have X amount of ranks, you gain a bonus to fighting defensively. I'll go over that more once I have more combat related videos, but anyway, now at the bottom of the character sheet, at the bottom right, you'll see languages. I think I covered a little bit about this before. Most races speak common and then get an additional language based off what race they are. This is going to tie into the RP aspect of the game, where let's say you find a goblin village and you try to talk to them and they all speak goblin and you won't understand a single thing they say. They won't understand what you say. This can be important in diplomatic situations or even language dependent abilities, etc. But just flip over to the back side of the character sheet now. You have a few different boxes here. You have ACA items, spells, gear, feats, special abilities, total weight, money, experience points. So we'll get right in. AC items, this is anything that gives you a bonus to your AC. Like we read off before, you got armor bonus, shield bonus, then your deflection bonuses, stuff like that. Any item that gives a bonus, you're going to write in here. So let's say you have leather armor. You write leather armor. The bonus will be 2. Type would be armor. The check penalty is if you're not proficient with it, it'll apply to attack rolls as well. But in general, this is going to be your dexterity skills, your strength skills. You're going to take a negative to them based off this check penalty. Such as if you're wearing heavy armor and you decide to go swimming, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Trying to climb a tree, less mobility, more difficult. The lighter the armor, the lower the check. Spell failure. This is one thing that ties into survivability. Most wizards are not proficient with heavy armor for a reason. So let's say an armor has a 30% spell failure chance. If you're wearing that armor and you try to cast a spell, you roll a d100 or 2d10s, and if you fall 30 or lower, the spell just automatically fails. You're unable to do the hand signs you need to do, unable to draw glyphs in the time required to do it. So most spellcasters, aside from the divine, will typically not wear any armor whatsoever. Weight. This will be important as if your class has a low strength, because the heavier the load you're carrying might accrue negatives to your ability to dodge attacks and everything else. Then properties. Properties is more like special stuff that the armor has, such as mithril is half weight, where adamantium is DR related, and then also magical properties. Now things like shields will go in there too, but I think you get the picture. At the end you total everything together. As far as armor types go, you can only have one armor of each type. So let's say you're wearing Haramaki. It's basically just a wrap that goes around your waist, gives 1 AC. And you're wearing plate mail, which is 9. You only get the 9. You don't get to add the other one in. If you're wearing bracers of armor, which is a magic item, they also won't add on to. You always take the best bonus and drop the lowest. And as far as armor check penalties go, you always take the highest of the armor checks. Let's see. Let's go to gear. Gear, once again, this is just where you write down everything you have. I typically keep a separate sheet for it as it gets messy erasing and whatnot. But all gear will have a weight as well, which will add into your total. Usually the best thing to do in this situation is, if your character has a lot of stuff, you can invest in things like a wagon or saddlebags for if you buy a horse. Or you can even leave stuff in a safe house and only carry with you what you need. This will get rid of the penalties. We'll bridge over to feats. Feats are kind of what make your class more unique, as there's feats to different fighting styles, different skill related abilities, magic feats. There's so many feats in the game, I don't even know the majority of them. In general though, feats are going to be mostly used for combat situations, especially in martial classes. Such as if you want to use 2 weapons, you're going to need 2 weapon fighting. If you want to use two-hand weapons, you can concentrate more on hard hits and be able to get to where you need to be. If you're using a sword and shield, maybe you want to buff up your defenses, your ability to use shield better. Same thing with ranged. There's basically a feat for almost anything in the game. If you want to do something specific, you can either ask around to different Pathfinder groups, maybe someone knows what you're talking about, but in general you're going to want to look through the feats. A lot of them have prerequisites, so you're only going to be able to take certain ones. Once again, you're going to want to look through the feat selection. You don't have to know every feat, but look through if anything sounds cool, catches your eye, and that'll be good. Also, always defer to your group you're in. Some people might be able to point you in the right direction, give you a new build that you never knew existed. Special abilities. This is going to be your class features, like a fighter gets bravery, which is a bonus against fear effects, and he's eventually going to get weapon training, armor training, and you're going to write these here, and you'll keep track of the bonus, because as you level up, most abilities get stronger. For most abilities, it's every 4 levels you gain an additional bonus. Some of them are sooner, some of them are later. We'll look at total weight. This is going to be primarily dependent on your strength modifier, but also size. Such as a halfling or a gnome, they're going to have a lower total weight capability than, say, a human or a dwarf. What's important though is that you know what your top end limit is. So your light load, let's say your character can carry 50 pounds before it switches over to medium. You'll write down 50 there, and as soon as you hit 51 pounds, you are now a medium load. And different loads will give you different natives, heavy load being absolutely the worst. Then on the right side, lift overhead, lift off ground, and drag or push. These are more, there's going to be situations that might come up where these are going to be more important, but generally you don't have to worry too much about them. If you're clearing debris, helping push a wagon, etc., these are where they're going to come into play. Money, increments of 10. 10 copper equal 1 silver, 10 silver equal 1 gold, 10 gold equal 1 platinum. Most items in the game are going to be registered as a gold value. That's going to be the most common. I, as a DM, typically allow my players to always round up their money. So let's say they get 17 silver from a quest. I'll allow them to change it to 1 gold, 7 silver. Just right off the bat. In situations where like you find like a dragon's hoard or a bunch of treasure, then I might apply the penalties. But currency does have a weight to it. I don't agree with the weight. I typically always lower it down, but anyway. Spells. This is something I also highly recommend you keep separate sheets for, like just notepad paper. But this is where you can look at to keep the general information down, such as spells known. Some classes are limited on how many they can know per level. So let's say a sorcerer can know 3 spells. You'd write 3 there, and that's how many they can know. Now spell saves and DCs. It's going to be 10 plus your spell level. So if it's a first level spell, just add a 1. Then you're going to add in your casting stat. So let's say you're a wizard, you have a 18 int. So it's going to be 10 plus 1 plus the 4 modifier. So a total of 15. That will be your spell DC. Now, once again, DCs are what the opponent has to roll to overcome the spell effect, or some of the spell effect in most cases. Like Fireball gives you a reflex save, a chance to dodge some of the damage for half. So let's say they have to roll a 18 or higher. If they roll a 17, they take the full brunt of the damage. but this is what like the spell DC means. You have to roll 1 above whatever it is to avoid the DC. I don't see a spells per day on there. Oh, there it is, yeah. So, certain classes you'll gain spells per day. That's your maximum amount you can cast before you have to take an 8-hour rest to regain them. Certain classes can cast more, some can cast less. But that's your limit until you rest and then start a new day. You notice early levels you're very, very limited. Spells are very powerful and it makes sense, but early game, like even if you're a wizard, I recommend you carry around like a crossbow or something that you can use to keep dealing damage. Cantrips, otherwise known as 0-level spells, they're typically infinite use. You can just keep using them over and over. Very, very low effect though. Like Acid Splash does 1d3 damage. That's it. So if your maximum damage is dealing 3, lowest dealing 1. Bonus spells, this is going to be affected off of your class's casting stat as well. There's going to be a chart in the books that will tell you, let's say you have a 20 intelligence. You go across thing, it might say you get 1 bonus level 1 spell, 1 bonus level 2, 1 bonus level 3. For these, the bonus spell never comes into play until you can cast that level of spell. So if you're level 1 and you have all these bonus spells, you don't get to cast a level 3 spell just because you have it. These will only come into effect when you're at the appropriate level. As for spell level, typically it's almost every 3 levels you get to the next tier. 9th level spells being the end all be all. Wizards get faster than other classes, but typically by level 17 you'll start hitting your first 9th level spells. But I'll go over spells again in a later video. Last thing I'll look at is experience points. A lot of people want to know how they level up. Like I've said before, different DMs have different trains of thoughts on this. There's 3 charts for XP: slow, medium, and fast. And depending on which one you take, this will be a DM decision, not yours. But this will determine when you level up. There's also milestone leveling, where the DM decides when you need to level up. You don't keep track of anything. The DM will just be like, alright, we finished this part of the game. Next time we meet up, level up your character to level 2. This is a decent way of doing it. It keeps everyone the same level, keeps everyone on their toes. You don't level up too fast or too slow. Then there's also Pathfinder Society leveling. That's based on how many times you show up and your character lives. I've not played Pathfinder Society. I do know it's heavily rule-based, and you have to get a character approved, as most things are going to be core rulebook only, with very few expansions. But anyway, that's the general thing of the character sheet. I know I left out most of the top part of the character sheet. I'll just briefly touch on that since I got a little bit of time. Your character name you decide. Alignment, there's a little brick 3x3. Lawful, neutral, chaotic, then good, neutral, and evil. This doesn't really come into play too often unless, let's say, you have a character with a alignment restriction like paladins, druids, rogues, monks. And typically you have to do something pretty drastic before your alignment starts to change. Your character level, you'd write down your class and how many levels you have in it. Since you're not limited to one class, you can have multiple ones up there. Deity, there's a whole list of deities. That's mostly for divine class, but honestly anyone can have a deity if they want one. Homeland, this is part of your backstory. Race, that's important. Size, like I said, you're going to be a medium size or a small size. As they're like, all the Pathfinder legal races, those are going to be your 2. Gender, age, height, and stuff like that, that's all just for aesthetics. You get to choose. Typically your race will have a little chart telling you what the boundaries are. Speed underneath, right beside HP. That's determined by your size and to some degree your class and your armor. Heavy armors will lower your speed. Fly speed, that's going to be mostly spell based. Swim speed is something that's also rare. That's I know Undine race, they can swim very easily. Climb speed and burrow speed. Burrow speed being the most rare. These things you're not going to have to worry about unless you get deep into Magic. Or you take like a more exotic race. But with that, we kind of finished the character sheet off. Any questions you can put in the comments. I will elaborate more. If enough people want, I can make more videos touching up on these things that people want to know. Alright, next video, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to hit next. I might jump in straight into like classes, and I'll see you then.